For years, I changed myself to be accepted and to avoid criticism. And I didn't even know what I liked, didn't know what I valued. People would ask me questions, and I really had no idea. Now I know my identity, and it doesn't change with other people's opinions or with circumstances. Your identity is how you see yourself and how you view yourself as a valued part of society. Your purpose is the reason you were created, the reason you exist. And your inner sufficiency is the power to feel complete on your own without anyone else being involved. And adequacy is a quality that says you are enough and you are acceptable how you are. Some things that make up our identity are things such as values, fears, patterns, biases, prejudice, motivations, and belief systems. And our identity is established by our family and society and by ourself. And sometimes ourselves can be our own worst enemy. We struggle a lot of times with identity because we need to belong. Belonging is a survival technique. In ancient times, if we didn't belong, we didn't have food, we didn't have safety, we didn't have shelter. It took a community to survive because we couldn't do it all for ourselves. Belonging is defined as being accepted for who you are. Fitting in is defined as being accepted for trying to be like somebody else. Many times we fall into identity crises because we are confused about ourself and our social role in society. It happens in good and bad situations. Situations like the loss of a job, loss of a relationship, a death of a loved one, or moving. It can also happen in good situations like you've got a new relationship, you're buying a new home, you got a new job. Many times, abusive relationships keep you in an identity crisis. It's perpetual. So some signs of an identity crisis are things like questioning yourself. I, in my situation, thought I was crazy half of the time because I thought I was acting normal, but my husband was telling me I was not and I wasn't doing things right. You have a lot of anxiety because you're walking on eggshells and you're really wondering what you should do. Difficulty making decisions because if you make the wrong one and don't do the right thing, you could have an issue and a problem. Changing yourself a lot, making yourself a chameleon. And when you realize you have trouble answering questions about yourself, like what you like, what you enjoy doing, what's your favorite television show, and you can't answer those questions, that is a good sign that you have an identity crisis. We live in a world that sends us messages that we're not enough. Advertising does that every day. This is what you need to buy. This is what you need to look like. This is what you need to do to be the best. It creates problems. A lot of the problems we have are like comparison. We're reliant on others for our own identity. We can't know who we are without looking at the other person to see who we are. We allow people to treat us bad because we don't know who we are. We settle for less. We don't realize that that person has no right to be in our presence if they're not going to act properly. We sacrifice our beliefs and wants by not setting boundaries, by doing things we don't want to do, by acting in ways that we would never act, but we're doing it because we don't know who we are. We're trying to be who someone else wants us to be. We are under extreme pressure and stress and anxiety a lot of times because we don't know how to act and how to be because we're trying to do whatever someone else is wanting. And we're always constantly conforming and changing. It can be scary to find out who you really are. It's a change. It's changing. It's letting go of the old and bringing in something new. What if you get rejected? What if you don't like yourself? Or what if somebody else doesn't like you? There's a lot of questions to ask, but a good friend told me one time this one thing I always remember. She said, if you keep changing yourself, how is the guy that God has for you going to be able to find you? Because he's looking for the true you. He's looking for you, but you keep changing yourself so he can't find you. Stop hiding her. I am so thankful for the tools and resources that were given to me throughout my years of counseling that helped me find my true self. I want to talk about some of these things. One of them is a book called Self to Lose, Self to Find, and it talks about the Enneagram personality type. There are 9 types of personality, and they talk about the authentic traits and the adapted traits. The authentic traits are the ones that you were created to be like, and the adapted traits are how you've adapted to the world to get along. And understanding these things for yourself and understanding them for others helps you behave better in relationships and helps you get along better and feel better about yourself. I am actually a type 3, and there's a lot of great things about a type 3. They're goal-oriented and they're very focused. However, they can be insensitive and very success-driven. So in this book, there is a process called Own Up. Of course, it's an acronym, and it's for observe, welcome, name, untangle, and possess. Observe your feelings is the first part. Observe what your characteristics are. So I'm going to use an example. I have an idea because I'm a visionary. I'm a type 3. I have all these big ideas, and I tell it to a coworker, and if she doesn't agree or like it or get excited like me, I get defensive because I want her to be as excited as I am about my idea. So I observe, wow, I'm having some feelings. I feel a little defensive. I welcome those feelings. I don't ignore them. I don't get critical. I don't say, oh, I shouldn't be upset right now. I just know that I'm feeling a little bummed. I'm feeling a little disappointed. I'm feeling humiliated a little bit. I'm feeling a little bit of anger. I'm feeling hurt. And I go, okay, I'm feeling these things. Then I have to untangle those things. I feel hurt. I feel sad. I feel disappointed because my coworker is not sharing my enthusiasm. However, I don't have to feel that way. I can look at it from all sorts of angles. I can possess that there might be some things I need to listen to. There might be some things that could make my idea better. There might be that we just have a difference of opinion. And I can be not defensive, and I can listen, and I can make my idea even better. So that's the own up process. Another book I read that sort of helps describe how to go through and become yourself is Wholeness by Terray Roberts. And Terray states that sometimes we do need another set of eyes, another set of healthy eyes, loving, kind eyes that are there for us, for our benefit. And be willing to consider what they tell us. Be willing to think about the unhealthy expectations we may have and the distorted thought processes. Be willing to take control of our negative self-talk and storytelling. And be willing to let go of habits and people that are hindering us and to do something new. So I'm going to give you an example, and this is a little personal. Had a wonderful friend. She's still a friend to this day. And she lovingly told me one day, you know, when you move back to Austin, I just would like for you to value yourself and value your body and value yourself as a woman. I'm not judging you. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I just think you're worth more and you should not be having sex with men like you have been. You're giving yourself away, and I wish you would stop doing that. And I sat there and I thought very deeply about it, and and she was very loving. She goes, I love you, but I don't think you love yourself. And from that point forward, I processed everything that was going on. I thought about what is it that I'm doing and what is it that I need to change? What are these habits that I have that are keeping me in this perpetuation of something that's unhealthy for my soul and my spirit? And I resolved to start working on myself, not date anymore, and to wait for God to find whoever it is I'm supposed to be with or to be alone. And I did that for 3 years. And I didn't date, I didn't have sex, I didn't do anything. And I can tell you, it was the best thing I ever did because I was able to find myself. And thank God she was that honest with me and loved me and let me see the error of my ways. So let's talk about a few things I did during that little 3-year transition. I actually got this thing called a values list. It's in your workbook. It's just a list of a whole bunch of different values. And in the exercise, you pick your top 10 values. And then you narrow it down to your top 5, and then you narrow it down to your top 2. And it tells you a lot. But right at first, I sort of had a hard time figuring out what my values were. So I had to ask myself some questions to maybe help me sort of narrow the 10 down even. I said, well, if I had a genie that came and would grant all my wishes, what would I want? If I look at what I spend my money on a regular basis, what do I spend my money on? If I have a really happy memory in my past, what were those happy memories? What was going on? And what really pushes my buttons? So I looked and I thought, one of my happiest memories was being with animals. I loved playing with my rabbits, my dog, my cat, and I thought about that felt so good, like I felt like I was really myself. I felt happy, great. And I thought, well, why don't I have more animals? Well, I'll tell you what, I did go ahead and listen to that, and I've got 3 goats, 2 dogs, and a cat, and I love all of them, and they make me happy every day. And that's just an example of how I was able to figure out some of my different values by looking at some of those things. And then there's another thing called 100 Questions. Teal Swan is a YouTube New Age counselor, and she has these 100 questions, and they're quite eye-opening. They're things like, if you died and came back, what would you do differently? If you could never fail, what would you try? If money wasn't an object, what would you do for a living? They're just great things to think about, and they help me start thinking about what I really wanted. Once I quit letting the world tell me who I was and how to be, I had so much better and more meaningful relationships. I actually enjoy being in those relationships because I'm the real me, and those people like the real me. And I have so much more energy and peace because nothing is easier or better than being the real you and being liked for being who you are. Now, I want you to take these resources to find the true you and unearth the treasure that you are. I cannot wait to see the masterpiece that has always been there that will be revealed.